that push the
Molly
needle
Carter
right
dropped
through.
behind the reception counter as a second shot tore through a
You're doing
shelf of
great.
stuffed rabbits waiting for new ears.
There you go,
Children
buddy.
screamed.
All set.
A mother pulled her son beneath a
He's
table
perfect.
shaped like a
Thank
red
you.
wooden ambulance. Somewhere near the back room, the ancient radiator hissed as if nothing had happened. Molly's heart slammed against her ribs. Everyone stay down. Her voice shook once. Then it steadied. A little girl named Sophie crouched beside the miniature examination beds, clutching a yellow elephant with one button eye. Molly crawled toward her, ignoring the glass pressing into her knees. "It's okay," Molly whispered. "Dr. Ellie is safe. You're safe." Another shot struck the front door. Then the street outside filled with black SUVs. They arrived without sirens. Without warning, men in dark coats stepped into the rain with the synchronized calm of people who had expected violence long before anyone else heard it coming. The final vehicle stopped at the curb. Its rear door opened. Vincent Ricci emerged beneath the cold November rain. He wore no overcoat, only a perfectly tailored black suit, black gloves, and an expression so still it seemed carved from the same stone as the old buildings around him. He looked through the shattered window, not at the armed men fleeing into an alley, not at his bodyguards drawing weapons. At Molly. His gaze found her beneath the counter, as though there were no walls between them. She saw the instant he realized she was bleeding. It was only a thin cut along her cheek, but something changed in his face. Not softness. Something far more dangerous. He crossed the sidewalk while gunfire cracked from the alley. One of his men shouted for him to stay behind the vehicle. Vincent did not slow down. He stepped through the broken doorway and into a room full of crying children, fallen toys, and shattered glass. In his left hand, he carried an old brown teddy bear. Its chest had been torn open. Dark stuffing spilled between his gloved fingers. "Molly," he said her name quietly, possessively, as if the sound belonged to him. She stared at the bear, then at the armed men forming a wall behind him. What happened? His eyes remained on the cut across her cheek. They came for what's inside him. Molly looked down at the ruined teddy bear. A brass key protruded from the torn seam, and beneath it, stained by age, was a strip of photographic film showing the face of a murdered woman. Chapter 1. The man who did not belong there. 6 days earlier, the teddy bear hospital had been warm, bright, and entirely ordinary. The non-profit workshop occupied the ground floor of a narrow brick building in Chicago's Lincoln Square neighborhood. Its windows were painted with smiling bears wearing bandages. Tiny white curtains hung behind the glass. The reception desk resembled a nurse's station, complete with handwritten patient charts for every stuffed animal that came through the door. Molly had created the place after spending 8 years as a pediatric nurse. She had loved the children. She had not loved watching frightened families leave the hospital with medical bills large enough to break them. The teddy bear hospital had started as a weekend project in her apartment. She repaired worn toys for children undergoing chemotherapy, replacing missing eyes, reinforcing seams, washing smoke from beloved blankets after apartment fires. Demand grew. Donations followed. 3 years later, she had a proper workshop, 2 volunteers, a partnership with local shelters, and a waiting list that stretched into January. The work did not make her wealthy. It made her useful. That mattered more. On the afternoon Vincent Ricci entered her hospital, Molly was sewing a new velvet nose onto a panda named Mr. Pepper. Rain moved in silver streams down the windows. Children colored at a small table near reception, while parents waited beneath paper clouds hanging from the ceiling. The bell above the door chimed. Conversation stopped. Molly looked up. The man standing inside the entrance seemed to drain the warmth from the room without moving. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and dressed in a black Italian suit that probably cost more than her annual rent. Rain darkened his hair at the temples. A luxury watch gleamed beneath one cuff. His face was striking in a severe, controlled way, all sharp lines and restrained power. 2 men remained outside beside a black SUV. Neither looked like a driver. The stranger carried an old teddy bear beneath one arm. Its fur had once been chestnut brown. One eye was missing. A seam beneath its left arm had split. The faded blue ribbon around its neck was stiff with age. Molly rose. "Welcome to the teddy bear hospital." The man's attention moved across the room, noting every exit, every window, every person. Then he looked at her. His gaze rested on her longer than politeness required. Molly had learned early not to shrink beneath scrutiny. She was 5'6", softly rounded, with strong arms, full hips, and the kind of body strangers sometimes treated as permission to offer unsolicited opinions. This man offered none. He simply watched. "I was told you repair old toys," he said. His voice was low and calm. "We repair loved toys." His expression did not change. "There's a difference?" "A big one." Molly placed Mr. Pepper carefully on the examination table. "Old toys can be replaced. Loved ones usually can't." Something flickered behind his eyes. He approached the counter and set the bear down between them. Up close, Molly noticed his black gloves. No wedding ring, a faint scar near his jaw, and the unsettling absence of nervous movement. Most adults who brought in sentimental toys apologized or laughed. They explained too much. They seemed embarrassed by their own tenderness. This man behaved as if tenderness were a hostile witness. "What's his name?" Molly asked. "I don't know." "You've had him a long time?" "No." Molly examined the bear without touching it. "Where did you find him?" "In a sealed nursery." The answer drew her eyes back to his. "A nursery? One of my family's properties. That sounds mysterious." "It isn't." It clearly was. Molly picked up a clipboard. "Do you know his approximate age?" 32 years. She paused. "Specific." "I prefer accurate information. What repairs would you like?" "The eye, the seam, the ribbon. Anything else?" "No." Molly studied the bear's body. The fur around the stomach was uneven, as though someone had opened and re-sewn it before. "There may be internal damage." His eyes sharpened. "What kind?" "Old stuffing can compact or deteriorate. Sometimes seams hide moisture damage." "I won't know until I examine him properly." "You are not to open the torso." Molly met his stare. "Then I can't guarantee the repair." "You'll repair what I asked." "No." The room became very quiet. Outside, one of his men shifted closer to the window. The stranger's face remained composed, but the atmosphere around him changed. Most people would have backed down. Molly folded her arms. If something inside is pulling against the fabric, replacing the eye and closing the arm won't help. He'll tear again. "He?" "The bear. It is an object." "It's your object," Molly said. "And you brought it into a hospital." A child at the coloring table giggled. The man glanced toward him. The boy immediately lowered his head. Molly did not. She slid the clipboard across the counter. "You can authorize a full examination, or you can take him somewhere else." His gaze dropped to the form, then to her hand. Her fingers were marked with tiny needle pricks. A silver thimble rested against her thumb. "You refuse clients often?" he asked. "Only the controlling ones." One corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. He signed the form with a single decisive stroke. Vincent Ricci. Molly knew the name. Everyone in Chicago knew it. Ricci Hotels, Ricci Construction, Ricci Shipping. Charitable foundations, restored churches, politicians photographed at black tie galas. And beneath the polished public image, there were stories. Whispers of racketeering. Disappearances. Men who crossed the Ricci family and abruptly moved to countries without forwarding addresses. Molly looked at the signature again, then at him. "You're that Vincent Ricci." "I'm the only one I'm aware of." Two mothers gathered their children and left quickly. Vincent watched them go without visible reaction. Molly felt fear move through her at last. Not panic. Awareness. The man standing across from her was dangerous. Not because of rumors, because his stillness seemed practiced. The stillness of someone who had learned that other people moved first when he entered a room. She turned the intake form around. "Your phone number. My assistant will handle communication." "That isn't how this works." His gaze narrowed slightly. "I speak directly to every owner." "I'm not an owner." Molly glanced at the bear. "Then who is?" Vincent did not answer. For the first time since entering, he looked uncertain. It lasted less than a second. But she saw it. He removed a black card from his wallet and placed it on the counter. A private number was written across the back. "You call me," he said. "No one else." "About the bear?" "About anything connected to him." The intensity of his tone made the little workshop feel suddenly fragile. Molly picked up the bear. Vincent's hand moved. Fast. He caught her wrist before she lifted it fully from the counter. The room froze. His gloved fingers encircled her pulse without pressure. Molly looked down at his hand, then up at his face. He released her immediately, not with apology, with control. "Do not remove the ribbon," he said. Molly rubbed her wrist. "You could have used words." "I did." After grabbing me, his jaw tightened. She expected anger. Instead, something like regret passed across his expression. "I dislike being ignored. I dislike being handled." His chaza held hers. Understood. It was the first concession he had made. Vincent stepped back. Molly carried the bear toward the examination room. At the curtain, she looked over her shoulder. He remained beside the counter, watching her with dark, unreadable eyes. "Mr. Ricci?" "Yes." "What should I write under patient name?" The rain whispered against the glass. Vincent looked at the faded blue ribbon around the bear's neck. Matteo. Chapter 2. The First Stitch. Molly discovered the hidden compartment the following morning. She did not open it. Vincent had forbidden her from cutting into the torso, and although he irritated her, a client's boundaries mattered. But Matteo's left arm had been repaired with a thread unlike the rest of the bear. The stitches were clumsy, irregular, and decades newer than the original construction. Something solid rested beneath the stuffing. Molly called the private number. Vincent answered before the first ring completed. "What happened?" "Good morning to you too." Silence. Molly balanced the phone between her ear and shoulder, while examining the seam beneath a magnifying lamp. "There's an object inside the left side of the chest." "What object?" "I don't know." "Do not touch it." "I haven't. I'll be there in 20 minutes. It's 8 in the morning. 15. He arrived in 12. This time, he came alone. Molly had not opened to the public yet. Morning sunlight filtered through the painted windows, turning the white shelves gold. Hundreds of repaired animals watched from their waiting cubbies. Vincent entered and locked the door behind him. "You lock doors in other people's businesses?" she asked. "When necessary." "It wasn't. It is now." He approached the examination table. Matteo lay beneath the lamp wearing a small paper admission bracelet Molly had fastened around his paw. Vincent stared at it. "What is that?" "Hospital protocol. You gave him a bracelet. All patients get one. He is not a patient." Molly adjusted her glasses. "You came here before breakfast because you were worried about him." "I came because there may be something hidden inside." "Of course." Vincent looked at the bear again. His gloved hand hovered over Matteo's head. He did not touch it. Molly noticed. "You can take off the gloves," she said. "No. You'll have better control of the needle." "I'm not sewing." "You are if you want me to open that seam." His attention snapped to her. "You said you would repair him." "I will. But you're going to watch. I don't need a lesson. Everyone who brings in a toy with an undocumented internal object gets one. That cannot be a real policy. It became one 30 seconds ago." Vincent's stare could have emptied a courtroom. Molly pulled a chair beside her. "Sit." He did not move. "Mr. Ricci, I'm not cutting open a 32-year-old bear while you stand over me like an executioner." "I don't stand over executioners." The answer was so coldly delivered that Molly believed him. She held his gaze. At last, Vincent removed his jacket and placed it across the back of the chair. Then he pulled off his gloves. The scars surprised her. Thin white lines crossed his knuckles and disappeared beneath his cuffs. One longer scar ran from the base of his thumb toward his wrist. His hands were strong, elegant, and damaged. Molly did not ask. She handed him a seam ripper. "Hold this." He looked at the small blue tool as though it had insulted his family. "What does it do?" "It cuts thread." "I know what it does." "Then we're making progress." Molly demonstrated on a sample square of fabric. Vincent's first attempt was too forceful. The blade sliced into the cloth. "You don't have to attack it." "I didn't." "You stabbed it." "It's fabric." "It was innocent fabric." His eyes lifted to hers. That near smile appeared again. Molly felt a small, unwelcome shift beneath her ribs. She ignored it. Together, they opened 3 stitches beneath Matteo's left arm. Molly used tweezers to separate the stuffing. A narrow leather pouch appeared inside. Vincent went completely still. "Do you recognize it?" she asked. "No." But his voice had changed. Molly eased the pouch out and placed it on a sterile tray. Vincent opened it. Inside was a tiny brass key and half of a photograph. The photograph showed a dark-haired woman seated in a garden, holding a little girl on her lap. A young boy stood beside them with one hand resting on a brown teddy bear. Vincent stared at the image. Molly looked from the boy's face to the man beside her. "Is that you?" He closed his hand over the photograph. "Yes." "Who are they?" "My mother and sister." The words were flat. Too flat. Molly sensed grief sealed beneath them like a wound hidden beneath clean bandages. "Where are they now?" "Dead." She lowered her voice. "I'm sorry. I don't require sympathy. No one requires it. His met hers." Molly expected him to look away. He didn't. For several seconds, the bright little hospital disappeared. There was only silence, the old photograph, and the loneliness in a man who had trained himself never to reveal that he could be wounded. Vincent returned the photograph and key to the pouch. "Close the bear. Don't you want to know what the key opens?" "Yes." "Then why put it back?" "Because whoever hid it expected the bear to remain intact. Whoever hid it may have expected you to find it." His jaw shifted. Molly saw denial settle over his face. He reached for the pouch. She placed her hand over the tray. Vincent stopped. Their fingers did not touch. His eyes dropped to the small space between them. Molly felt the weight of it. A moment later, he withdrew. "What are you doing?" he asked, making a new interior pocket. "You will not alter him. It will protect the photograph." "No." "The old pouch is cracked." "No." "You're impossible. And yet you continue arguing." "Because I'm right." Vincent leaned closer. His voice lowered. "You do not know enough about my life to decide what should be protected." Molly did not retreat. "I know enough about damaged things to recognize when someone is keeping them broken, because repair feels like betrayal." His expression hardened. She had struck something. For one dangerous second, Molly wondered whether she had gone too far. Then a knock sounded at the front door. A boy stood outside with his father, holding a stuffed dog whose head hung by a thread. Molly stepped away. "We open at 9. "It's 9, Vincent said. She checked the clock. He was right. Molly unlocked the door. The father entered, then stopped when he recognized Vincent. Fear tightened his face. "We can come back." The little boy stared at Matteo. "Is his bear sick too?" Vincent's posture changed. Only slightly. But Molly saw discomfort move through him more powerfully than any threat had. "Yes," she answered for him. "Mr. Matteo has a chest injury." The boy approached. His stuffed dog dangled from both hands. "My dog got hurt when we had to leave our house." Molly knelt. "What's his name?" "Rocket." "Rocket looks brave. He was in the fire." The father's eyes lowered. Molly understood. Apartment, fire, evacuation. Perhaps everything else lost. "We'll take good care of him." The boy looked at Vincent. "Are you Matteo's dad?" Vincent's face went blank. Molly bit the inside of her cheek to keep from smiling. The boy waited. Vincent looked at the old teddy bear beneath the lamp, then back at him. "I suppose I am. Is he scared?" Vincent glanced at Molly. She said nothing. The answer had to be his. "No," he said at last. "But he doesn't like needles." The boy nodded seriously. "Rocket doesn't either." Vincent's gaze rested on the hanging head of the stuffed dog. Before Molly could stop him, he reached for a chair. "Show me how to fix it." She blinked. "You? You said everyone requires a lesson." The boy climbed onto the stool beside him. For the next 40 minutes, Chicago's most feared crime boss learned how to anchor a ladder stitch while a 7-year-old held a flashlight. Vincent's hands were too large for the work. His first stitches were uneven. Molly guided him with words, never touching him. "Smeller, they are small. They look like bridge cables." The boy laughed. Vincent looked offended. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed too. It was barely a sound, low and brief. But Molly heard it, and something inside her shifted again. This time, she could not pretend otherwise. Chapter 3. The man-children stopped fearing. Vincent returned the next day, and the day after that. He always claimed it was about Matteo. The bear needed new glass eyes. Then the ribbon required cleaning. Then the interior pocket Molly had made needed inspection. But Matteo spent most visits resting on a shelf while Vincent sat at the children's repair table learning how to sew. He was not naturally gentle. He pulled thread too tight, bent needles, once snapped a wooden embroidery hoop in one hand after receiving a phone call he refused to discuss. Yet children trusted him with a speed that made adults uneasy. Perhaps because children did not know his reputation. Perhaps because they knew more than adults did. They noticed that he never lied to them. If a toy could not be restored perfectly, he said so. If a child cried, he did not offer false cheer. He sat nearby in silence until the crying stopped. When a shy girl named Avery brought in a stuffed fox missing both ears, Vincent spent an hour cutting replacement pieces from orange velvet. The ears were uneven. Avery hugged the fox anyway. "They're perfect," she whispered. Vincent stared at her as though she had handed him a weapon he did not understand. Molly watched from the sewing station. "You're getting better," she said later. "At cutting ears, at being human." I was unaware my status was in question. It was. He stood beside her, close enough for her to feel his warmth. They were alone for the first time that day. Snow had begun falling beyond the windows, softening the street into white silence. Vincent rolled his sleeves to his forearms. The sight of his scars no longer surprised her. The sight of him in her whimsical hospital still did. He looked like violence seated inside a nursery. Molly threaded a needle. "Why did you become a nurse?" he asked. "My mother. She was ill. She worked 3 jobs and still volunteered at children's shelters. She thought usefulness was a kind of love." "And you agreed?" "I used to." Vincent looked toward the wall of patient photographs. "What changed?" Molly's hands slowed. "A patient died." He waited. Molly appreciated that he did not say he was sorry before hearing the story. Her name was Lily. She was 8. Leukemia. She had a stuffed lamb called Daisy. Lily's father accidentally tore Daisy's leg while moving between hospital rooms. Molly swallowed. "I repaired it during my lunch break. Lily died 2 days later. Her father told me that the last time she smiled was when I returned the lamb." Vincent's gaze moved to her face. "I couldn't stop thinking about how many families lose everything except one small thing. A blanket, a bear, a doll, something that carried the life they had before the hospital, the fire, the shelter, the funeral. So you left nursing." "I changed what kind of nurse I was." Vincent looked at Matteo. "You repair evidence that people were loved." The words struck her with unexpected force. Molly lowered her eyes. Yes, he had understood better than anyone else. A black sedan slowed outside. Vincent noticed it before she did. His posture went rigid. The vehicle continued past the window. "Who was that?" Molly asked. "No one. You don't look like that when no one drives by." He moved to the window. "Molly, how many people know Matteo was found here?" "No one besides your men." "Did you photograph him?" "For records." "Where are the photographs?" "On the hospital computer." Vincent crossed the room in 3 strides. "Delete them." She turned toward him. "No." His voice became dangerously soft. "This is not a negotiation. It became one when you ordered me to destroy nonprofit records. You do not understand the risk." "Then explain it." "I can't. Won't." His eyes hardened. "Delete the photographs." Molly stood. "No." Vincent stopped inches from her. The air changed between them. Snow moved silently beyond the glass. The radiator clicked. Somewhere in the back room, a music box played a slow, tinkling melody. "You are reckless," he said. "You are secretive. You have no idea what men will do for the contents of that bear. You don't know what's in it. I know people are watching this building." Fear slipped beneath her anger. "Why?" Vincent's expression closed. "I need to move you." "Move me where?" "Somewhere secure." Molly laughed once, without humor. "You are not relocating me because a sedan drove past. You're coming with me." "No." His gaze lowered to her lips before returning to her eyes. It happened so quickly she almost doubted it. "Almost." "Do not test me on this," he said. "I'm not one of your employees." "No." The word carried a strange weight. "You are not." Molly's pulse quickened. "Then stop giving me orders." Vincent lifted one hand. For a breathless second, she thought he might touch the cuticle of thread clinging to her hair. His fingers stopped inches from her temple. He seemed to realize what he was doing. His hand lowered. "You make obedience unusually difficult. You make disobedience unusually satisfying." A muscle moved in his jaw. The bell above the front door chimed. A courier entered, holding a legal envelope. "Molly Carter?" "Yes." "You've been served." The envelope bore the blue and silver logo of Vale Play Industries. Molly opened it. The language blurred at first. Copyright infringement. Unauthorized reproduction. trademark dilution, commercial exploitation of proprietary character design, damages requested, $4 million, immediate injunction to cease operations. Her stomach dropped. This is absurd. Vincent took the papers from her. She should have objected. She didn't. His eyes moved quickly across the first page. Who is Graham Vale? CEO of Vale Play. They manufacture luxury collectible toys. Have you used their designs? No. We repair donated animals. Some may have been manufactured by Vale Play, but fair use restoration. This is not about copyright. Molly looked at him. What is it about? Vincent glanced toward Matteo. The Bear. Chapter 4. The House Above the City. The injunction arrived 48 hours later. The Teddy Bear Hospital was ordered to suspend public operations pending a hearing. Volunteers packed supplies in silence. Parents called in tears. 37 children had appointments that month, including families from 2 domestic violence shelters and a pediatric burn unit. Molly stood beneath the painted clouds and felt as if someone had removed the air from the room. Vincent's attorney examined the order at the front desk. Elena Ross was elegant, sharp-eyed, and visibly unimpressed by intimidation. This judge signed an emergency injunction without a full evidentiary review, she said. That suggests influence. Can we appeal? Yes, but Vale Play will bury you in procedure first. Molly rubbed her forehead. I don't have money for this. Vincent stood near the window, speaking quietly into his phone. Elena glanced toward him. You do now. No. Molly, I'm not letting him buy the hospital. He isn't offering to buy it. He'll own something. Vincent ended the call. You're moving tonight. Molly turned. We have discussed this. The sedan outside belonged to Vale Play Security. 2 men entered your apartment building yesterday. Her blood chilled. How do you know? I had them followed. You had my apartment watched? Yes. The admission came without shame. Molly stared at him. For how long? Since the first photograph was uploaded. You put surveillance on me? I put protection around you, without telling me. Telling you would not have improved its effectiveness. Anger surged through her fear. You don't get to invade my life and call it protection. I do when your life is threatened because of me. The room fell silent. Molly looked at Matteo sitting on the examination table. What aren't you telling me? Vincent's face became unreadable. Elena quietly collected her files. I'll wait outside. When the door closed, Molly crossed her arms. Start talking. Vincent remained near the window. My mother, Mafia Ricci, died in a car bombing when I was 9. Molly said nothing. My sister Bianca was 6. She died with her. His voice held no tremor. That made it worse. My father told me the attack came from a rival family. For 20 years, I believed him. And now, 3 months ago, my father died. Molly knew. The funeral had appeared on every local news station. He left me several properties, Vincent continued. One was an estate outside Lake Forest. The nursery had been sealed behind a false wall. That's where you found Matteo. Yes. Why would your father hide the room? I don't know. And the photograph? My mother was holding the original Vale Play prototype. Molly frowned. Matteo? Vale Play was not always Graham Vale's company. It belonged to his father and my mother. The revelation settled heavily. Sophia designed toys? She was an industrial artist. She created a therapeutic bear for traumatized children. Weighted limbs, reinforced seams, replaceable facial features. Molly looked at Matteo with new understanding. He was designed to be repaired. Yes. Then why does everyone think Vale Play created him? Because after my mother died, Graham Vale's father patented the design under his own name. And your family let him? Vincent's eyes darkened. My father invested in the company. Betrayal moved through the room like a cold wind. Molly understood before Vincent said it. You think your father helped kill her? I think the key inside Matteo may prove it. She looked toward the locked door. And Vale knows we found it. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? Because once you knew, you became a witness. I was already a witness. I was trying to delay the moment you understood that. Molly studied him. There was guilt in his face, buried deep, but present. You brought danger into a room full of children. His expression tightened. I didn't know. You suspected. I suspected the bear contained a personal message. You should have taken it somewhere private. I did not trust anyone. But you trusted me? No. The answer came too fast. Molly felt a foolish sting. Vincent's gaze shifted. Not at first. The room seemed smaller. Molly turned away before he could see how much the correction affected her. I'm not going to your house. Penthouse. That is not more comforting. Your apartment has one entrance, no security desk, and windows accessible from the fire escape. You've inspected it? I've seen the report. She closed her eyes. This is insane. Yes. At least he knew. What happens to the hospital? My people will secure it. Your people with guns? My people who understand locked doors. Molly looked around at the painted beds, embroidered blankets, and rows of damaged toys waiting for repair. This place cannot become part of your world. Vincent's voice softened. It already has. That evening, Molly entered the Ricci penthouse carrying one suitcase and Matteo in a blue medical transport bag. The residence occupied the top 3 floors of a black glass tower overlooking Lake Michigan. It was not a home. It was a fortress disguised as luxury. White marble floors, dark wood walls, art selected by investment value rather than affection. Windows stretching from floor to ceiling showing Chicago glittering beneath the winter sky. Armed men guarded the elevators. Hidden cameras followed every hallway. Molly stopped beneath a crystal chandelier. Do you ever relax? No. Healthy. Vincent's gaze moved to her suitcase. You packed lightly. I plan to leave quickly. His expression did not change, but she sensed he disliked the answer. A housekeeper showed Molly to a bedroom larger than her entire apartment. Fresh clothes hung in the closet. She opened one drawer. Sweaters in her size. Jeans. Sleepwear. Everything fit. Vincent stood in the doorway. You bought me clothes? My staff did. How did they know my size? Silence. Molly turned slowly. Vincent, you leave measurements in online order histories. You hacked my shopping accounts. No. That answer was too fast. My security team gathered information. That is called stalking. It is called preparation. She held up a burgundy sweater. This has my exact sleeve length. Vincent looked at it. You're difficult to shop for. Molly threw the sweater at him. He caught it one-handed. For the first time, she saw a real smile threaten his control. It transformed him, not into a gentleman, into a dangerous one capable of warmth. That was worse. Molly pointed toward the hallway. Get out. Vincent placed the sweater on a chair. Before leaving, he looked at Matteo resting on the bed. You brought him. He's evidence. He could have stayed in the vault. He's my patient. Vincent's eyes lifted to hers. And you don't abandon patients? No. Something in his expression deepened. No, he repeated quietly. You don't. Chapter 5. The wall of photographs. Forced proximity did not make Vincent easier to understand. It made him impossible to ignore. He worked through the night in a study overlooking the city. Men arrived at strange hours and left pale-faced. Phone calls stopped when Molly entered rooms. Yet every morning at 7, Vincent appeared in the kitchen while she prepared coffee. He never drank hers. He claimed it contained too much cream. She claimed his espresso tasted like punishment. On the 3rd morning, Molly found a sewing kit beside his plate. You want another lesson? I tore a stitch. On Matteo. Vincent opened his hand. A small cloth rabbit lay across his palm. One ear had detached. Molly recognized it from the teddy bear hospital. Where did you get that? A child left it during the shooting. The shooting hasn't happened yet? Wait, consistency. We are pre-opening shooting shown in prologue, upcoming. Need no shooting. Change to injunction closure may be left during evacuation? During closure. Let's continue but fix mentally. A child left it when workshop closed. Need user won't see revision? We can write correct now. Continue. A child left it when your volunteers cleared the building. That belongs to Sophie. She called my office. Molly stared. A 5-year-old called the Ricci organization. She asked one of my guards whether the scary sewing man had found Nurse Bunny. Molly pressed her lips together. And had he? Vincent looked down at the rabbit. Yes. They sat at the kitchen island. Molly talked him through each stitch. He listened with total concentration, the same way he likely listened during negotiations that determined whether men kept their businesses or disappeared. You're pulling too tight, she said. It needs to hold. It also needs room to move. That sounds inefficient. It's fabric, Vincent, not territory. He glanced at her. Everything is territory. The words revealed more than he intended. Molly softened. Maybe that's why you break things. His hand stopped. Most people apologized when they saw anger enter his eyes. Molly waited. Vincent looked back at the rabbit. Show me again. So she did. That afternoon, while searching for a first aid kit, Molly opened the wrong door. The room beyond was dark, except for the blue glow of surveillance monitors. Dozens of screens covered one wall. The teddy bear hospital appeared on 6 of them. Her apartment building on 4. Her favorite grocery store. The coffee shop near her former hospital. Photographs covered another wall. Molly leaving work. Molly carrying donation boxes. Molly laughing with volunteers. Molly standing beneath an umbrella. Every image had a date. The earliest was taken 3 months before Vincent brought Matteo to her. Her blood turned cold. She heard him behind her. Molly. She turned. Vincent stood in the doorway. The silence between them was devastating. You knew me before you came into the hospital. He said nothing. How long? His face had gone still. Answer me. 3 months. The betrayal struck deeper than she expected. Why? Your name appeared in my mother's files. Molly looked at the photographs. My name? Carter. That is not unusual. Your mother was Evelyn Carter. Molly's throat tightened. Yes. She worked for Vale Play. No. She volunteered at shelters. Before that, Vincent entered the room but stopped several feet away. She was my mother's assistant. The floor seemed to tilt. You're lying. I'm not. My mother would have told me. She may have been afraid. Of whom? My father. Molly backed away from him. You investigated me. Yes. You watched me for months. Yes. You knew exactly who I was when you walked into my workshop. Yes. Each calm admission cut more deeply. The bear wasn't random. No. You used me. His jaw tightened. I needed to know whether your mother left you anything, so you pretended to need a repair. Matteo did need repair. Molly laughed in disbelief. You sat with children. You learned to sew. You let me tell you about Lily. That was not an act. How am I supposed to know? Vincent took 1 step closer. She raised a hand. Don't. He stopped instantly. The obedience hurt almost as much as the betrayal. Molly looked at the wall again. There were hundreds of images. You could have asked me about my mother. I didn't know whether you were connected to Vale. You thought I might be part of a conspiracy? I think everyone may be part of a conspiracy until proven otherwise. That is not caution. That is damage. His gaze darkened. You're correct. Molly had not expected agreement. It stole some of her anger and replaced it with grief. Was anything real? Vincent's composure fractured at last. Only slightly, but she saw the fear beneath it. The way you made me feel was not part of the plan. The room became painfully quiet. Molly's pulse stumbled. Vincent's voice lowered. I intended to observe you, question you, determine whether you possessed evidence. He looked at the photographs as if they disgusted him now. I did not intend to remember what time you opened the hospital, or which children required silence before they trusted strangers. I did not intend to know that you hum when you repair something difficult. His eyes returned to hers. I did not intend to need the sound. The confession moved through her with dangerous warmth. She hated that it did. You don't need me. Yes. The single word held no hesitation. Molly's throat tightened. That isn't romantic. I did not say it was. It's obsession. Yes. Again, no denial. His honesty frightened her more than excuses would have. Molly stepped around him. I'm leaving. You can't. She stopped. Behind her, Vincent's voice hardened with command. Vale's men are watching every exit. I'll take the risk. I won't. She turned. You don't decide for me. No, he said. But I decide what happens to anyone who tries to take you. The quiet violence in his tone raised gooseflesh along her arms. Molly held his gaze. You are the reason they want me. Yes. And you still think you have the right to keep me here? No. For the first time, pain entered his voice. I have no right at all. He stepped aside from the door. But if you leave tonight, I'll follow you. If you take a train, I'll own the next station. If you board a plane, I'll put men on both sides of your seat. You may hate me in any city you choose. His eyes burned into hers. But you will remain alive while you do it. Molly should have walked out. Instead, she remained inside the surveillance room, surrounded by proof that he had deceived her, and proof that somewhere along the way, deception had become devotion. That was the moment she began to understand the true danger of Vincent Ricci. It was not that he could destroy men. It was that he could make destruction sound like a promise. Chapter 6. The Key. Molly did not speak to Vincent for 2 days. She remained in the penthouse because leaving would have placed her volunteers and the children at risk. But she moved through the rooms like a guest in enemy territory. Vincent gave her space. No explanations. No demands. Every morning, however, fresh coffee appeared outside her bedroom door, made exactly the way she liked it. She hated that he remembered. On the 3rd night, Molly examined Matteo beneath a portable lamp in her room. Her mother's connection to Sofia Ricci had changed everything. Molly searched through memories. Evelyn Carter had kept very little from her past. A cedar box, several old photographs, a silver locket Molly had inherited after her mother died. The locket. Molly sat up. She had worn it for years without opening the inner frame. The clasp was jammed, and she had never forced it. Her belongings had been moved from the apartment under guard. The jewelry case sat inside the closet. Molly found the locket and examined it beneath the lamp. A tiny keyhole marked the back. She stared at Matteo, then removed the brass key from the bear's hidden pouch. It fit. The locket opened with a soft click. Inside was no photograph, only a folded strip of paper, where children learn not to fear the dark. Below the words was a sequence of numbers. Vincent appeared at the bedroom door. He had not knocked. Molly looked up sharply. "You have 3 seconds to explain." The alarm on the evidence case triggered. "You put an alarm on Matteo?" "Yes. Of course you did." His gaze dropped to the open locket. The color left his face. "My mother gave that to Evelyn." "How do you know?" "I saw it in photographs." Molly handed him the paper. Their fingers nearly touched. Both noticed. Neither moved for a second. Then Vincent took it. "The numbers are coordinates," he said. "To where?" He entered them into his phone. A map appeared. Molly leaned closer. The location marked an abandoned children's hospital on the south side. Vincent's expression hardened. "Saint Agnes. Why there?" "My mother funded its night ward. Children learning not to fear the dark." The basement contained a therapeutic playroom. Molly closed the locket. "We're going." "No." She looked at him. "You used that word again. You are not entering an abandoned building that may be monitored. You won't find what she hid without me. I'll manage. My mother wrote the clue. My mother chose the location. Then we both go." Vincent's gaze moved across her face. "No." Molly stepped closer. "You lied to me for months. You watched me. You brought Matteo to my hospital because you thought my mother left something behind." His eyes lowered briefly to her mouth. She ignored the heat that rose beneath her skin. "You do not get to exclude me now. This is not about exclusion. What is it about?" For a long moment, he said nothing. Then his voice dropped. "Fear." The admission silenced her. Vincent looked away toward the dark windows. "I don't experience it often." Molly saw tension in his shoulders, the rigid restraint of a man fighting an enemy inside himself. "What are you afraid of?" His eyes returned to hers. "You." Her breath caught. "Me? What happens to me if I fail to keep you alive?" The words were not a confession of love. They were something raw. Vincent took a slow breath. "I survived my mother, my sister, men I considered brothers. I survived because I learned to remove anything that could be used against me." Molly's heart beat painfully. "And now? Now there is you." Silence expanded between them. He lifted one hand. Again, his fingers stopped before touching her cheek. He always stopped. Molly had noticed. "You never touch me," she whispered. Vincent's expression changed. "Not much. Enough. The first time I touched you, you told me not to handle you. That was weeks ago. You said you disliked it. I disliked being grabbed. I don't trust myself to misunderstand the difference." The restraint in his voice sent warmth through her more intensely than contact might have. Molly looked at the inches separating his fingers from her skin. "You command cities. Not you." "No." His gaze burned. "Never you." Molly should have stepped away. Instead, she remained still. "You can touch my cheek," she said. Vincent did not move. She saw the battle in him. Then the alarm system screamed. The windows shook. A blast erupted 3 floors below. Vincent reached Molly before the sound finished echoing. He pulled her against his chest and drove them both behind the marble wall as glass shattered through the penthouse. His body covered hers. His hand cradled the back of her head. For the first time, he touched her without restraint. Gunfire thundered from the hallway. Vincent drew a pistol from beneath his jacket. His face became cold, lethal, absolute. "Stay behind me." Molly looked down. Blood darkened the white cuff of his shirt. "You're hurt." "It's nothing." "Vincent." The bedroom doors burst inward. 2 armed men entered. Vincent fired twice. Both men fell. Molly froze. The violence was not cinematic from 6 feet away. It was deafening, ugly, final. Vincent turned toward her immediately, not toward the bodies. "Are you hit?" She shook her head. His eyes searched her face, throat, arms, and torso. "I'm fine." He touched the cut along her temple. His fingers trembled. Barely, but they trembled. A bodyguard rushed into the room. "Sir, the east elevator is compromised. Helipad only." Vincent lifted Molly into his arms. "I can walk. I know. Put me down." "No." He carried her through smoke-filled corridors, while his men formed a moving shield. The city burned with lights beyond broken windows. Snow whipped through the open helipad doors. A helicopter waited beneath spinning blades. Molly clutched the front of Vincent's shirt. Blood spread beneath her fingers. "You've been shot. Grazed. You're lying." "Yes." Gunfire struck the metal railing behind them. Vincent turned, shielding her completely. For one suspended moment, they stood beneath the snow and rotor wash, black SUVs burning far below, armed men firing from a neighboring rooftop. Vincent looked down at her. His calm finally broke. "If they take me," Molly shouted over the helicopter, "you cannot burn the city down." His eyes turned darker than the night around them. "They will never take you." That wasn't an answer. It was the only one I have. Chapter 7. The playroom beneath St. Agnes. They reached Street Agnes before dawn. Vincent refused to go to a hospital. A private physician removed the bullet fragment from his shoulder inside an armored safe house near the abandoned medical complex. Molly stood beside the surgical table. "You need stitches." "I'm aware." "You need antibiotics." "I employ a doctor." "You also ignore him." "I ignore most people." The physician glanced at Molly. "He listens to you." Vincent's eyes opened. The physician immediately returned to work. Molly cleaned blood from Vincent's forearm. He watched her. There was something different in his gaze now. The attack had stripped away the careful distance between them. "You're angry," he said. "You were shot. That happens. That is not normal. In my life it is." Molly set down the gauze. "Then your life is unacceptable." Vincent stared at her. No one had probably spoken to him that way, and remained in the room. Molly's voice softened. "You could have died." His expression shifted. "Would that matter to you?" The question was too quiet, too vulnerable. She looked away. "Yes." Vincent did not speak. The doctor finished the final stitch and left. Molly packed the medical supplies. Vincent sat shirtless beneath the low light, a white bandage crossing one shoulder. Scars marked his chest and ribs, each one a silent chapter he would never volunteer. "You should rest," she said. "So should you. We're going to Street Agnes." "No." Molly gave him a look. Vincent Sahil. It was the first ordinary sound she had ever heard him make. An hour later, they entered the abandoned hospital through an underground service tunnel. Vincent brought 6 armed men. Molly brought Mateo. The old building smelled of rust, dust, and cold stone. Moonlight fell through broken windows. Children's murals peeled from the walls. Yellow stars, blue moons, smiling animals wearing nurse caps. The basement playroom remained locked behind a steel door. The brass key did not fit. Molly studied the numbers written inside the locket. "They aren't only coordinates." Vincent moved beside her. "What else?" 4 numbers repeat. She looked at the faded mural beside the door. 4 teddy bears were painted beneath a crescent moon, each wearing a different colored ribbon. Blue, red, green, gold. Molly pressed them in the sequence written by her mother. A hidden panel opened. Inside was a reel of film and a small audio cassette. Vincent stared at them. My mother knew someone was coming for her. Molly placed the cassette into an old therapy recorder on a nearby shelf. Static filled the room. Then a woman's voice emerged. Varm. Breathless. Terrified. My name is Mafia Ricci. If Vincent is hearing this, then I failed to protect him from the truth. Vincent stopped breathing. Molly looked at him. He stood in the center of the ruined playroom, while his mother's voice crossed 32 years to reach him. Mateo was designed by Evelyn Carter and me for children who survived violence. Sophia continued. Every seam can be opened and repaired, so a child learns that damage does not mean the end of love. Molly's eyes filled. Her mother had helped create him. Carlo Ricci and Arthur Vale discovered that the weighted lining could transport microfilm without detection. They used our toys to move financial records, political payments, and shipping codes. Vincent's face hardened. When we threatened to expose them, Carlo arranged the bombing. Arthur forged the patents. Evelyn escaped with part of the evidence. Molly pressed a hand to her mouth. The recording crackled. Vincent, your father will teach you that tenderness is weakness. He will make you believe survival requires cruelty. Do not let him turn you into the man who killed me. Pain moved across Vincent's face. Openly now. He may tell you Bianca died in the car. She did not. Vincent took one step toward the recorder. Molly's heart stopped. Your sister survived. Evelyn moved her through Street Agnes under another name. The recording ended. The room went silent. Vincent stared at the machine. No. Molly reached toward him. He stepped back. No. Vincent. My sister died. Your mother said, my father showed me the coffin. A closed coffin? His eyes flashed. Molly understood. Vincent had built his entire life around the certainty of Bianca's death. His grief had shaped him, hardened him, perhaps even crowned him. Hope was not gentle. Hope was an earthquake. One of the guards called from the corridor. Movement upstairs. The lights went out. Gunfire erupted. Vincent pulled Molly behind a concrete pillar. Men entered from both stairwells. Vale's private security. Dozens of them. Vincent's guards returned fire, but the basement became chaos. Muzzle flashes, splintering walls, smoke rolling beneath the ceiling. Molly clutched Mateo against her chest. A man emerged from the darkness behind them. He grabbed her hair. Vincent turned. The attacker pressed a gun beneath Molly's jaw. Everything stopped. Vincent raised his weapon. His face became terrifyingly calm. Release her. The man smiled. Mr. Vale wants the bear. Vincent's gaze moved to Molly. Not the weapon. Not the attacker. Here. She saw fear in his eyes. Real fear. The kind he had survived his entire life without allowing anyone to witness. Give him Mateo, Molly whispered. No. Vincent. No. The gun pressed harder beneath her jaw. Vincent lowered his weapon. His men stared at him in disbelief. The most powerful man in Chicago surrendered his gun for a woman he had once claimed he did not trust. The attacker kicked the weapon away. Bear. Molly looked down at Mateo. Then she noticed the loosened seam beneath his blue ribbon. During the helicopter escape, the interior pocket had torn. The film strip was no longer inside. It had fallen into Molly's coat lining. The bear was empty. She held Mateo out. The attacker reached for him. Vincent moved. It happened too quickly to follow. A hidden blade slid from his sleeve. He crossed the distance, drove the knife into the attacker's shoulder, and pulled Molly against him as the gun fired into the ceiling. Vincent's men surged forward. The basement erupted again. He shielded Molly with his body and dragged her toward the tunnel. Outside, dawn broke over the frozen city. Vincent pressed her against the stone wall, examining her face. Did he hurt you? No. His hands moved over her shoulders, throat, and hair, as though confirming she remained real. I'm okay. He did not seem to hear her. Vincent. She caught his wrists. He froze. Molly had touched him first. The realization passed between them. His pulse raced beneath her fingers. You gave up your gun, she whispered. I would give up everything. The words came without calculation, without restraint. Vincent looked at her as though he hated that she now knew the exact measure of his devotion. Molly's hands loosened around his wrists. You barely know me. I know how you speak to children when they are frightened. I know you save the original stuffing even when it smells of smoke because parents remember the scent. I know you pretend not to cry when a repaired toy goes home. His voice deepened. I know you stand in front of danger when everyone else runs from it. He leaned closer, stopping before their mouths touched. And I know that before you entered my life, I had never feared losing anything more than I feared wanting it. Their breath mingled in the winter air. Molly's heart ached. She wanted him. That truth frightened her, but the lie between them still existed. The surveillance, the manipulation, the darkness he carried. Molly stepped back. Vincent allowed her to go. His restraint hurt more than pursuit would have. We need to find Bianca, she said. His face closed again. Yes, but his eyes remained on the space where she had been. Chapter 8. The woman who survived. Bianca Ricci had lived for 32 years under the name Anna Reed. She ran an art therapy center in Vermont. The identification came from Street Agnes's archived transfer records. Evelyn Carter had arranged the adoption through a Catholic relief organization after the bombing. Molly found a photograph online. Anna had Sophia's eyes. Vincent stared at the screen for a long time. She has 2 children, Molly said gently. He said nothing. You have a niece and nephew. Still nothing. Molly closed the laptop. You don't have to meet her immediately. Yes, I do. His voice was rough. She spent 32 years believing I was dead. You believe the same. That does not return the years. No. Molly sat across from him in the safe house. But it gives you the next ones. Vincent looked at her. He had been quieter since Street Agnes. Less controlled in ways only Molly noticed. He slept little. Ate less. Kept Matteo within sight. The bear sat on the table between them. Its chest remained torn from the attack. Molly had offered to repair it. Vincent had refused, not because he wanted Matteo damaged, because he no longer believed he deserved to make him whole. You should call her, Molly said. What would I say? The truth. I am not practiced in it. I've noticed. A shadow of pain crossed his face. Molly regretted the sharpness immediately. Vincent looked down at Matteo. My father turned me into everything my mother feared. You were a child. I stopped being one a long time ago. What have you done? His eyes lifted. The room seemed colder. You don't want that answer. Don't decide what I want. Vincent leaned back. I have ordered men killed. Molly's pulse quickened. I have destroyed businesses, bribed officials, used fear to keep peace between people who understand nothing else. His voice remained calm, but his hand tightened around the chair. I became more efficient than my father, more patient, more feared. Molly forced herself not to look away. Did you enjoy it? Sometimes. The honesty struck her. Vincent watched for disgust. Perhaps expected it. Molly gave him truth in return. That frightens me. It should, but it isn't all you are. You cannot repair me as if I am one of your toys. I know. His jaw tightened. That's not what I do. Isn't it? No. I repair what someone brings me. I don't chase broken things and force them to heal. Vincent went still. Molly looked at Matteo. You came to me. Silence settled between them. The next morning, Bianca agreed to a video call. Vincent stood in front of the laptop and said nothing. Anna Reed appeared on the screen. She had silver beginning at her temples and a softness around her eyes that reminded Molly of Sophia's photograph. For several seconds, neither sibling spoke. Then Anna touched the screen. Vinny? The name broke him. Vincent sat down. His face remained composed, but tears filled his eyes with such sudden force that Molly had to turn away to give him privacy. I thought you were dead, Anna whispered. So did I. You look like Papa. Vincent flinched. Anna saw it. No, she corrected softly. Only around the eyes. Vincent looked at Matteo. Do you remember him? Anna covered her mouth. Matteo. Her tears began. He was yours, Vincent said. No, Mama made 2. Yours had a red ribbon. Vincent stared at the faded blue ribbon. The bear had belonged to Bianca, not him. Another piece of his childhood shifted. Anna smiled, through tears. You used to steal him when you were afraid. Vincent looked away. Molly watched the feared Mafia Boss learn that the object he had carried like evidence had once been his refuge. He and Anna spoke for nearly an hour. When the call ended, Vincent remained seated. Molly approached slowly. She wants to meet you. Yes. You look terrified. I am. Molly smiled faintly. Good. His eyes lifted. Good? It means you still have something worth protecting that doesn't require a gun. Vincent stood. He was close now. Too close. Molly felt the weight of every unfinished moment between them. You, he said. What? You require no gun? I require honesty. That is more difficult. I know. His gaze lowered to her lips. Tell me to stop. Molly's breath caught. He lifted one hand and brushed his thumb against her cheek. The touch was almost reverent. Nothing like the man who had first seized her wrist. Molly leaned into his palm before she could reconsider. Vincent inhaled sharply. He bent toward her. Their mouths nearly met. The safe house door opened. Elena entered, carrying a file. She stopped. I can return. Vincent looked at her with murder in his eyes. Molly stepped away, flushed. What happened? She asked. Elena placed the file on the table. Graham Vale has scheduled a press conference. He plans to announce that Molly's nonprofit is part of a Ricci money laundering operation. Molly stared. That's insane. It doesn't need to be true, Elena said. It only needs to spread before the hearing. Vincent picked up the file. I'll stop him. How? Molly asked. He did not answer. She knew. No violence. Vale is trying to destroy you. Then we expose him. He will not be persuaded by evidence. He might be destroyed by it. Vincent's eyes sharpened. Molly removed the film strip from her coat lining and placed it on the table. I never gave it to the man at Street Agnes. For the first time in days, Vincent looked surprised. You had it? The entire time. You didn't tell me. You taught me not to trust easily. Something dangerously proud entered his expression. Elena held the strip to the light. These are financial records. Enough to prove the original Vale play patents were funded through Ricci shell companies, Molly said. Maybe enough to connect Graham's father to Sophia's murder. Vincent looked at her. And enough to destroy my family. Molly's resolve wavered. The records would not only implicate Vale, they could expose the Ricci empire. Vincent understood the choice before she voiced it. Release them, he said. Elena stared at him. Vincent, the federal consequences. Release everything. Molly searched his face. You could lose your companies. Yes. Your power. Yes. Your freedom. He looked at her. My mother died trying to expose the truth. Your mother spent the rest of her life hiding from it. His voice lowered. I will not ask you to preserve the empire that killed them. In that moment, Molly saw the man he might become. Not innocent, never harmless, but honest enough to burn the throne built for him. Chapter 9. The Teddy Bear Hospital Siege. Graham Vale moved before they could release the evidence. At 4 o'clock the next afternoon, Molly received a call from Sophie's mother. The child's yellow elephant remained inside the sealed workshop. Sophie had been admitted to the hospital for emergency surgery and refused to enter the operating room without it. Molly knew it could be a trap. She went, anyway. Vincent refused to let her enter alone. 4 black SUVs stopped outside the Teddy Bear Hospital beneath heavy rain. The street was empty. Too empty. Vincent stepped from the vehicle first. Molly followed beneath the protection of 2 guards. The painted window was dark. The word hospital looked lonely behind the glass. Inside, nothing seemed disturbed. Molly crossed toward the patient shelves and found Dr. Ellie, the yellow elephant, in cubby 17. Then the front door slammed shut. Metal shutters dropped across every window. Vincent drew his weapon. Men emerged from the back room. Vale play security. At least 12. Graham Vale entered last. He wore a pale gray suit and the pleasant expression of a man accustomed to committing cruelty through attorneys. Molly Carter, he said, the woman who convinced Vincent Ricci to become sentimental. Molly held the elephant against her chest. Vincent stepped in front of her. Open the shutters. Vale smiled. Your father spoke about you often. Vincent's face became stone. He said you were born with your mother's weakness. You have 10 seconds. I don't think you understand your position. Vale's men raised their weapons. Vincent's guards did the same. The whimsical workshop transformed into a battlefield. Tiny examination beds, paper clouds, stuffed animals wearing bandages, and armed men prepared to kill one another beneath a mural of smiling bears. Molly's stomach turned. No shooting. No one moved. She raised her voice. There are gas lines beneath the rear furnace. One bullet in the wrong wall could ignite the entire building. It was partly true. The furnace was gas-powered. Whether a bullet could ignite it, Molly did not know. But uncertainty brought silence. Vale looked amused. "You're brave." "No," Molly said. "I'm tired." She stepped around Vincent. His hand closed around her arm. "Not hard." A warning. Molly looked at him. "Trust me." Every instinct in Vincent resisted. She saw it. Slowly, he released her. Molly approached Vale. "You fabricated the lawsuit because you knew Matteo had been found." Vale's smile thinned. "My family owns that design. Your family stole it. History belongs to whoever protects the paperwork. My mother protected more than paperwork." She removed her phone. Vale's men moved. Vincent raised his gun. "No one touch her." His voice was quiet. Every weapon in the room seemed to lower by instinct. Molly opened a photograph of the film strip. Vale's expression changed. "Only slightly." "Enough. You don't have the original," he said. "Maybe not. You're bluffing." "Then why are we surrounded by guns?" Vale's eyes hardened. Molly continued. "Your father and Carlo Ricci used therapeutic toys to move criminal records. Sophia and Evelyn discovered it. They tried to expose them. Two emotional women who misunderstood business." Vincent's gun shifted toward Vale's heart. Molly raised one hand without looking back. He stopped. Vale noticed. His smile returned. "Remarkable. He obeys you." "No," Molly said. "He chooses not to become his father." The words struck Vincent behind her. She felt it without turning. Vale's composure cracked. "Vincent is exactly his father. Then why are you afraid of him?" "I'm not." "You should be." Molly stepped closer. "Not because he can kill you. Because he is willing to tell the truth." Vale laughed. "Vincent Ricci will never sacrifice his empire for a nurse who sews button eyes onto toys." The room went silent. Molly looked back at Vincent. Rain hammered the metal shutters. His Chaza held hers. Then he removed his phone. He called Elena. "Release the files." Vale's face drained. Vincent continued watching Molly. "All of them." Vale raised his weapon. The first shot struck the ceiling. Vincent reached Molly before the second. He pulled her down behind the reception counter as gunfire tore through the workshop. Glass exploded from interior cabinets. Stuffed animals fell from shelves. Vincent covered Molly with his body. His men returned fire with controlled bursts. Vale disappeared into the rear corridor. Molly clutched Dr. Ellie beneath her. "Matteo." Vincent looked across the room. The old bear sat inside the evidence case near the examination station. A bullet shattered the glass. Matteo fell to the floor. His chest tore open. Molly moved before thinking. Vincent caught her around the waist. "No, he'll be destroyed. It's a bear." The words echoed between them. The same words Vincent had spoken on the first day. Molly looked at him. He looked toward Matteo, then released her. "I'll get him." "Vincent." He crossed the open floor beneath gunfire. His men shouted. A bullet struck the wall beside his head. Vincent reached Matteo and lifted him from the glass. At that moment, Vale emerged from the rear room and aimed at Molly. Vincent saw him. He could not reach her in time, so he turned his back. The bullet struck Vincent below the shoulder blade. He staggered. Molly screamed. Vincent remained standing. He fired once. Vale's weapon flew from his hand. Vincent crossed the room with blood spreading down his shirt. He struck Vale to the floor and pressed the gun against his head. Vale smiled through blood. "Do it. Show her what you are." Vincent's finger tightened on the trigger. Molly stood behind him. She could see the war inside his body. The old instinct. The rage. The certainty that death solved betrayal faster than truth ever could. "Vincent." He did not turn. Vale laughed. "She'll always be afraid of you." Vincent's jaw clenched. Molly stepped closer. She did not touch him. "Not yet. You told me your mother feared what your father would make you." His breathing changed. "You are not required to prove her right." The gun trembled once. Vale's smile vanished. Vincent slowly lowered the weapon. Police sirens rose outside. Elena had coordinated with federal agents before releasing the files. The shutters lifted. White daylight and rain flooded the ruined workshop. Vale was dragged away in handcuffs. shouting about patents, theft, and Ricci blood. Vincent remained kneeling among shattered toys. Matteo lay in his hands. His chest had opened completely. The old stuffing was dark with Vincent's blood. Molly approached. He looked up at her. The feared Mafia Boss appeared exhausted. Human. Terrified. "I ruined him," he said. Molly knelt. "No. He protected evidence for 32 years. He protected you longer." Vincent's eyes filled. Molly took Matteo gently. Then she placed her hand against Vincent's face. "You came back for him. He mattered to you. He mattered to you." Vincent closed his eyes against her palm. His control disappeared. Not dramatically. Not all at once. It simply stopped holding him upright. Molly caught him as he leaned forward. His forehead rested against her shoulder, while armed agents moved around them and rain fell through the shattered window. "I don't know how to be what you need," he whispered. Molly held him carefully, mindful of the wound in his back. "I never asked you to become harmless." His breath caught. "I asked you to become honest." Vincent lifted his head. Blood streaked his shirt. Broken glass surrounded them. Stuffed animals lay across the floor like wounded witnesses. "I love you," he said. There was no elegance in it. No prepared speech. Only truth torn from a man who had spent his life treating truth as a liability. Molly's eyes burned. "You lied to me." "Yes." "You watched me." "Yes." "You frightened me." "I know." "You cannot control my life." "I know. And if you ever put surveillance inside my home again, I will personally remove every camera and make you swallow the batteries." A breath of laughter escaped him. Painful. Real. Molly leaned closer. "I love you too." Vincent stared at her, as if she had spoken in a language he had never expected to understand. Then Molly kissed him. Not because he demanded it. Not because danger had confused fear with desire. Because after every lie had been stripped away, he had chosen truth at the cost of his kingdom. His hand rose to her cheek. He kissed her with devastating restraint at first, as though even now he feared taking more than she offered. Molly moved closer. That was all the permission he needed. The kiss deepened beneath the rain and shattered glass, surrounded by broken toys waiting to be repaired. Chapter 10. The Children's Ward. Vincent survived. The bullet missed his spine by less than an inch. Federal indictments dismantled Vale Play's executive leadership and exposed decades of bribery, patent theft, and organized crime. Graham Vale was charged with conspiracy, attempted murder, fraud, and obstruction. The Ricci empire did not escape. Vincent surrendered financial records, resigned from several companies, and entered a cooperation agreement that cost him properties, political influence, and hundreds of millions of dollars. He kept enough legitimate holdings to remain wealthy. But he was no longer untouchable. For the first time in his adult life, that seemed to bring him peace. Bianca visited Chicago during his recovery. She entered the private hospital room carrying a small red-ribbon teddy bear. Vincent looked at it for a long time. "You kept him," he said. "Of course." She sat beside him. Molly watched from the doorway as brother and sister compared bears, scars, and incomplete memories. No dramatic miracle erased 32 lost years. There were silences, questions neither could answer. Anger at the parents who had betrayed them. Grief for the childhoods they had lived separately. But there was also laughter, and the careful beginning of something neither had expected to recover. Family. 3 months later, the teddy bear hospital reopened. Not as it had been. Larger. The neighboring storefront had been converted into classrooms where children learned basic sewing and restoration. A new legal foundation funded repairs for shelters, pediatric hospitals, and families displaced by violence. Above the entrance, a brass plaque read, "The Sophia Ricci and Evelyn Carter Center for Childhood Memory." Vincent claimed the expansion had nothing to do with him. Molly discovered his signature on the anonymous donation papers. She made him teach the Saturday sewing class as punishment. He terrified the parents. The children adored him. On the first morning, Vincent stood before 12 children holding a needle between scarred fingers. "This is a ladder stitch," he said. A boy raised his hand. "Why is it called that?" "Because it resembles a ladder." "What if mine looks like a snake?" "Then you've made a snake stitch." Molly watched from the doorway, smiling. Vincent wore his usual black suit, though he had removed the jacket and rolled up his sleeves. A little girl sat beside him, carefully replacing a missing button on a stuffed bear. He guided her with quiet patience, not touching her hands, only teaching. When the class ended, Vincent found Molly in the examination room repairing Matteo. The bear had been cleaned. His chest was closed. His blue ribbon had been restored. One glass eye gleamed slightly brighter than the other. Vincent leaned against the doorway. "You changed the eye." The original was gone. "They don't match." "They don't have to." He approached the table. "Everything should match." "Not after 32 years. Molly tied off the final stitch. "Sometimes repair leaves evidence." Vincent looked at the pale thread crossing Matteo's chest. "Ascar. A history." He lifted the bear. His hands were gentle now. Not naturally, deliberately. That mattered more. Molly removed her glasses. "How was class?" One child sewed his sleeve to the tablecloth. "Did you fix it?" He refused assistance. Independent. Reckless. Sounds familiar. Vincent looked at her. The intensity had never left him. He remained dangerous, controlled, and feared by people who understood what he had once been capable of. But with Molly, his darkness no longer required disguise. He did not pretend to be gentle. He practiced it. Every day. "Come with me," he said. "That sounds suspicious." "It is." He led her through the workshop to the old recovery ward. The lights were dim. Paper stars glowed along the ceiling. On the center table sat a new teddy bear with soft brown fur and a burgundy ribbon. Molly picked it up. A small velvet box rested between its paws. She looked at Vincent. He did not kneel immediately. Of course he didn't. Vincent Ricci did nothing because tradition expected it. Instead, he stood before her with his hands at his sides and no shield left in his expression. "I spent most of my life believing love was leverage," he said. "Something men used before betrayal." Molly's eyes filled. "You taught me it can be work. That doesn't sound very romantic." "It is the most romantic truth I know." He opened the box. Inside was an antique diamond ring reset into a simple platinum band. "My mother's," he said. "Bianca had it." Molly looked at him. "Are you sure?" "No." She laughed through tears. Vincent's mouth softened. "I am certain about very few things." He took the ring from the box. "You are one." Then he lowered himself to one knee. The feared man, who had once made entire rooms fall silent, now knelt beneath paper stars in a hospital for broken toys. "Molly Carter, you healed something in me without ever trying to own it." His voice roughened. "You never demanded that I become good. You demanded that I choose better." Molly pressed one hand to her mouth. Vincent looked up at her with the same dark intensity that had frightened her on the first day. Only now she knew what lived beneath it. Grief, devotion, fear, hope. "I will spend the rest of my life choosing you," he said. "Even when you are furious, even when you are wrong." Molly narrowed her eyes. "I'm reconsidering." A faint smile touched his mouth. "Marry me." She let him wait. Only for 3 seconds. It was still the longest 3 seconds of Vincent Ricci's life. "Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger. Then he stood and kissed her beneath the glowing stars. Outside the recovery room, children and volunteers erupted into cheers. Molly pulled away. "You invited an audience?" "No." Bianca appeared in the doorway holding her phone. "He absolutely did." Vincent gave his sister a cold look. She laughed. Molly looked around at the children, repaired toys, bright walls, and people who had survived enough darkness to recognize the value of light. Then she turned back to Vincent. "Are you happy?" The question seemed to surprise him. He considered it carefully. "I don't know." Molly smiled. "Still learning." "Yes." She placed Matteo into his arms. "Good. Your next lesson starts now." 1 year later, the annual Teddy Bear Hospital Festival filled the entire block. Families gathered beneath white gold afternoon sunlight. Children carried repaired animals through playful check-in stations. Bianca taught art therapy beneath a striped canopy. Volunteers collected donations for trauma wards and shelters. Molly stood at the center of it all wearing a cream dress, her wedding ring visible as she tied a fresh bandage around a little boy's stuffed lion. Across the courtyard, Vincent sat at a child-sized table in his perfectly tailored black suit. His luxury watch gleamed beside a pile of colorful buttons. A frightened girl held out a teddy bear with a torn chest. Vincent accepted it carefully. "Will he be okay?" she asked. Vincent examined the damage. Years earlier, he might have called it an object. Now he looked at the child and gave her the truth. He'll have a scar. The girl's eyes filled. Vincent lowered his voice. But scars only mean someone cared enough to bring him back. The girl smiled. Molly watched from across the courtyard. Vincent sensed her gaze and looked up. The noise around them faded. Children laughed. Cameras flashed. 2 discreet bodyguards carried boxes of donated fabric near the entrance, pretending not to enjoy themselves. Vincent held Molly's eyes. The coldness he showed the world remained, but beneath it lived something that belonged only to her. He rose and crossed the courtyard. When he reached her, he placed one hand at the curve of her waist. "Your patient?" Molly asked. "Stable. Prognosis? Difficult. Like his doctor?" Vincent leaned down. "Like my wife." Molly smiled against his mouth. Above them, the restored sign moved gently in the summer breeze. Teddy Bear Hospital, all wounds welcome. And in the arms of the most feared man in Chicago, Matteo Ricci rested with mismatched eyes, a faded blue ribbon, and a pale scar sewn carefully across his heart. Not perfect, not untouched, loved enough to survive.